My name is Wes. I'll be your driver and narrator today. I'd like to ask before we get started that you please remain seated while the trolley is moving. Also, that you keep your arms and hands inside the trolley at all times. This is the rain that's supposed to be after midnight, but unfortunately don't have any curtains. If you do need to move up, if it doesn't look like it'll last too long, if it does start raining too hard, you can move front or back ways. You might get a little more protection. Now you look over here to the right as we get started down Water Street. You can see this red roof barge over here. This is Wilmington's only floating restaurant, bar, and grill. Now they unfortunately aren't quite open yet for the season. They hopefully will be open up in the next couple weeks or so. That's also the dock for some of our sightseeing boats. They do have cruises going out today. Matter of fact, they should have one leaving right about now. They got about every hour or so this afternoon. We get over here to the right. You can see a couple of sightseeing boats down here right now. One's Jacob's Run. The other one, I believe, is the one that's operating today. At least it looks like they got people on there. That's the Captain J.M. Maffitt. Now, coming up over here on the left, the building that's here on the left has the black and white awning on the door. It says Wilmington 2nd City Market. Our first city market was in the middle of Market Street. That's where we got the name, Market Street. Now, that was originally a 3-story building. They leveled it down to 1 story, opened it up as our second city market. Now back over here on the right, this building here, this is a new restaurant. It's called The George on the Riverwalk. We have 45 restaurants in the downtown area. All of the restaurants are locally owned. Most of them do have menus posted out front. You get an idea of what kind of food and prices they have before you get in there. I say locally owned restaurants. We have any chains in the downtown area. The only chain restaurant we have is a Roost Chris Steakhouse. It's actually inside the Hilton Hotel. Now back over here on the right, this 2-story brick building, this is a Serpentarium. That's a new idea to the downtown area. You don't know what a Serpentarium is. That's a snake museum. They have live and poisonous snakes in there from all over the world. Now where the Serpentarium's located, all these other buildings along this block here, they were originally all part of Wilmington Iron Works. Wilmington Iron Works recently had went out of business. When they did, they were the oldest continuously existing business in the state of North Carolina. They'd actually opened up the doors in 1838. They had originally operated a foundry. They did casting riverboats around along the river. They went out of business. They just specialized in machine and fabrication work. Now they found out doing some very valuable waterfront property though. They are tearing it down piece by piece and putting up condominiums. Now this hill that we're climbing here, this always has been referred to as Baptist Hill. That's because the first Baptist meeting place in Wilmington was in this home that's right here on the left. The white home here has dark shutters on it. Now this was a convenient spot, Baptist to meet in Wilmington. They could roll right down the hill here, bit the banks of the Cape Fear River for baptisms. Back up here on top on the left, the big green home sitting up there, that's the Captain Harper home. Captain Harper was riverboat captain. He had piloted the steamer Wilmington, which made regular runs between Wilmington and Southport. Steamer Wilmington was mainly a passenger carrying vessel. They did carry the mail for a short period. He even started making a stop at Federal Point, which we know today as Carolina Beach. Over here on the far right-hand corner of the big white home sitting here has 4 or 5 chimneys. You can see up there to the top. Home there was originally built for Governor Dudley. Governor Dudley, the first governor of North Carolina, be elected by the people's popular vote, built that big home for his private residence. Time the governor built the home in Wilmington. Wilmington was the largest city in the state of North Carolina. There has been several things. It was an Elks Lodge at one time. It's been a restaurant a couple times. It is today, once again, a private residence. Now back over here on the right, this yellowish colored home here, this is the Keenan home. That's where William Rand Keenan Jr. was raised. Now you'd recognize the Keenan name if you'd ever spent any time around any of our universities in North Carolina. The Keenan family, they did endow a lot of money to our university system. If you'd ever watched sports, I'm sure that you've seen Keenan Stadium from Chapel Hill. That's named after that family. They got the money. They had invested well in Standard Oil. They started Union Carbine, even up inheriting the Flagler fortune from Florida. When they died, they did leave millions and millions of dollars to our university system. Back over here on the right, the big white home here. Green door, brick stairwell. This is the Beery home. This home was built by Captain Beery. Captain Beery operated a shipyard in Wilmington prior to and during the Civil War. He launched the first ironclad from this area. That was the Ironclad, North Carolina. When the fall of Wilmington was inevitable, though, he went down to his shipyard. He burned everything in it to the ground. He did not want anything to fall into the hands of the Union forces that would do him any good. He also lost control of that big home back there, the war-mate town. That home was turned into a hospital. The Beery family never did regain control of the home. That home sold at an auction after the war. It sold for only $180. One of those bargains you kind of hated, you weren't around for at the time. Home was sold, restored. It's set up as one of the finer bed and breakfasts in downtown Wilmington. They say the construction of the home is much like the construction of a ship, since it was built by Captain Beery. Even has a little room at the top. You can see all the way down to the river, much like the pilot house of a ship or boat. Now the next home here on the right looks like a great big dollhouse. That is the Worth House. The Worths were merchants. Home today is also a bed and breakfast. We're going to be making a right on the Church Street. You look to the left as we make the turn to the third cottage on the left. People say it is the second cottage on the left. Anyway, the little greenish aqua colored home coming up over here has the window up here on the top level. This is the Yarborough home. Mr. Yarborough was a popular African American barber in downtown Wilmington. He was married, had one daughter. Her name was Katrina Yarborough. Now Katrina Yarborough was educated Catholic schools of Wilmington. She later had went on to become a very popular opera singer. She did a lot of shows in New York's Carnegie Hall as well as in Milan, Italy. She even made it back to Wilmington during her heyday. They did several sold-out performances at Wilmington Stallion Hall. She even had made it back here in the early 80s. Someone had bought that cottage. They had restored it, and they had presented a historical plaque in her honor. She did die shortly after that. Now, there's nothing of any real historical note along this block. Driving through these neighborhoods, though, you'll notice a lot of these homes do have plaques near their front doors. There are a couple of different color plaques. There's a brownish or reddish color plaque, means a home is 75 to 100 years old. The darker color plaques means a home is 100 years or older, but they do have to have some sort of historical significance to get these plaques. You'll notice a lot of these homes, they do have the plaques on them. Also, if you build a home in the historical district, anything you do exterior of it does have to be approved by the historical committee. That includes the colors you paint your home. Now, a good example of how to build a home would be this gray home here on the far left corner. Has the white trim around it. This is actually a new home. It's only been lived in now a little bit over a year. They did a nice job of making it fit in with the historical look. Now we're heading back down towards the river, this area of the river, heading towards now is where our shipyards were originally located. I told you a little bit about Beery Shipyard. It was actually across the river from this point. On this side of the river, we had the Cassidy Shipyard. The Cassidys, they operated a sophisticated shipyard for their day. They even had a big marine railway. They could pull the big ships up out of water. Also had a full-time blacksmith on duty at the yard. Not to be outdone by the Beerys, they launched the second ironclad from this area. That was the Ironclad Raleigh. Now the home that's coming up over here on the right, the white home over here, barn-shaped roof facing the river, this is where the Cassidys lived. When they built this home here, they put an exterior door every interior room. We're not real sure why they did that. It's just one of the things they did do when they built this home. This home was recently sold and restored. It's just the third family have possession of the old home since it was built before the Civil War. They said one of the stipulations of the sale of the home here had to be restored and not torn down. They did a real good job with the restoration. They've also done a good job of keeping that home up as well. It's very rare to go by. You don't see some sort of activity or upkeep going on to the home. Now back over here on the right, you can see these gardens coming up along the right hand side. Then the gray home coming up over here on the right. The home coming up here was originally built in 1790. It wasn't actually built at this location. It was actually built over on the left where you can see the wall that was originally around the home. Home was moved over present location in the early 1970s. They had started making the plans to build the taller building that's coming up over here on the left. Now this home was actually scheduled to be torn down. It was saved by the Historical Society, moved to its present location. It sat there for a long time, was in terrible condition. Everyone in town thought you'd be crazy to buy the home here. It'd actually be a whole lot cheaper just to build a new one. Finally, someone in this area, they saw some good in the home. They bought it. They restored it to what you see now. Oh, you look back over here to the right, expanding out over the river. You can see the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge. Cape Fear Memorial Bridge, it's an unusual bridge. It's what's known as an elevator bridge. That means the entire center span of that bridge there rises right straight up in the air, just like an elevator would go up. Bridge is a little bit out of date today. Sometimes it does go up, doesn't come back down. Traffic backed all the way up to the city. Now the river on the right is the Cape Fear River. Cape Fear River is the only major river. It does dump directly into the ocean. It forms headwaters in Chatham County. It's about 175 miles in length, and Chatham County is just about the center of the state. River, it's only navigable today, 115 miles. That's up to Fayetteville. Wilmington to Fayetteville was the primary run of riverboat today's past. It's still about 25 miles. This point down into the mouth of the river, but we do have the state of North Carolina's largest deepwater port. Our state ports are located downriver, about 3 miles downriver. Be straight in the direction that we're headed. Upriver, of course, be right back behind us. Now they got ready to move the gray home back there in the early 1970s. They were making the plans to build the Solomon Towers. That's the taller building that's here on the left. This is low-income housing for the elderly. It's owned by the Wilmington Housing Authority. They got ready to put the big tall building right here. They thought this would be the perfect location at that time. No one would live in this area of Wilmington. Now everyone wants to live in this area of Wilmington. And they are getting a lot of complaints putting that big tall building there. That is sort of an eyesore right here in the middle of the historical district. These residents do have nice riverfront condos, though. Probably have some of the better riverfront views than anyone else in town. Now, if y'all are